The 2025 NFL trade deadline rapidly approaching after 8 weeks of the NFL season, and we are projecting 6 trades for 6 teams on today's NFL Six-Pack.
This is Locked On's NFL Six-Pack. 6 bold takes from 2 guys who just flat out know football. NFL experts Matt Williamson and Brian Peacock bring pure NFL talk. Great takes, no fluff, just honest football talk. Crack one open. It's NFL Six-Pack on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to the brand new NFL Six-Pack featuring Peacock and Williamson. Yes, you are in the right place if you are a faithful Peacock and Williamson everydayer. We've got a new format here. It is still Peacock. It is still Williamson. Brian Peacock and Matt Williamson with you daily talking NFL football. New format on the podcast now here on the Locked On Podcast Network, our daily NFL Six-Pack. And we're going to get into a number of subjects throughout this podcast every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. So thanks for hanging out with us. Make sure you're all subscribed up here to the new format, same feed, new look, new logos, new background, and the same 2 guys talking ball with you every day, as you heard in the intro there. So if you don't know who we are, I'm Brian Peacock, football analyst, also host of Locked On 49ers, Matt Williamson at Williamson NFL. You know him, and has been around doing this a long time. We will have some mailbag talking about a little bit more about how we ended up getting together and doing podcasts in the first place, Matt. So tune into tomorrow's episode. All right. Of that, and get your questions in, everybody, at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL, in the YouTube comments for our weekly Wednesday NFL mailbag. And it's going to be a 6-pack of mailbag questions on tomorrow's show. So welcome to the NFL Six-Pack, and it is a trade deadline special. We're going to try to do some matchmaking today for 6 teams and 6 players to those teams. First, we got to talk a little bit of Monday Night Football, Matt. Welcome to the new format. First of all, we're in blue and red now instead of the green and gold that we used to feature on the Peacock and Williamson podcast. So NFL Six-Pack, I love it. And we are going to hit 6 trades. But before we get to our Six-Pack today, we got to talk about the end of week 8, which was the Kansas City Chiefs handling the Commanders quite easily on Monday Night Football, which kind of just brought the whole week together, because we had talked on Monday's episode, Matt, about how the contenders looked like contenders and beat up on the little brothers in week 8 for the most part. And that's what we saw again on Monday Night Football. It just looked like a lot better team. Commanders without their quarterback, Chiefs at home, they handled their business. It started slow and ugly, but they got there.
Yeah, they did. And the trade deadline is 1 week from today. And I think for several weeks now, we've known the sellers. We've known the bad teams. I mean, to me, that's been pretty apparent earlier in the season, maybe than ever. Tennessee, the Jets, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think the really good teams made a collective statement this week. You know, I mean, the Eagles, the Bills, some of these teams winning pretty handily. And the Chiefs definitely qualify. I mean, they dominated time of possession. I felt bad. Both these quarterbacks threw a couple picks that weren't their fault. There was stuff bouncing off hands into other, up in the air to other teams and all those things. But I thought Mahomes was spectacular. They have a lot of weapons right now. They don't have to lean on Kelsey too much at all. Rice, I think, is starting to be the real straw that stirs the drink. I mean, 9 catches on 9 targets. Worthy has some big play, chops to him as well. You don't even know. Think about like a Hollywood Brown. And they ran the ball well, 148 yards on the ground. They stopped a very good Washington run game, only led 60 yards on the ground to Washington, led by Mariota. But they did have McLaurin back in this game, which was big, and he made a play or 2. But that Chief O-line has some issues at the moment. Left tackle is kind of not sure what's going on with him. The rookie Simmons, and Smith, the star right guard, was out too, but didn't really matter. I think this is definitely a buyer at the trade deadline, if that's something they're going to be interested in.
Absolutely. And a little teaser here, the Chiefs are in our 6-pack of projected NFL trades at the deadline here. And what could they go shopping for? You have to stay tuned in that one. 5-3 Chiefs now, one of the hottest teams in the NFL, playing like the team we thought they were going to be coming into the year. They're playing well on the defensive side of the ball. Mahomes is having a really good season, And Rashee Rice is really important to that offense, and the catch and run ability. I like the wrinkle of having him in the backfield. Almost got himself into the end zone on a red zone carry. And so things going really good for the Chiefs. The Commanders really taking a step back from where they were last year, now at 3-5 on the season without their quarterback, and starting to see some cracks in a team that we thought that, maybe they kind of outkicked their coverage a little bit last year, maybe, but coming back down to earth, maybe even more than I thought this year.
Yeah, and Daniels being in the lineup and McLaurin and Debo being in the lineup has something to do with that. But I predicted them to definitely take a step back, but this is probably a little bit bigger step back than even I thought,
Got whipped up front in this one.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They're kind of an average team.
So we're going to move along to our six-pack now on this inaugural episode of the NFL Six-Pack featuring Peacock and Williamson. Thanks for coming along with us. Let us know what you think about this. We want to have our listeners really involved in this show as well. I'd like to do some more live episodes, which we kind of got away from in recent years here on the podcast, but that'd be a lot of fun to have some live back and forth. We definitely are going to do not only a weekly mailbag, but we're going to have some listener questions and comments throughout our other episodes as well. So throw us out one of your trade ideas. We want to hear about that this week before the trade deadline. If we don't cover your team in our six-pack of projected trades here. One big aspect of this that we just talked about with the Kansas City Chiefs, and you see how that one extra playmaker can really make a big difference. And I'm wondering, Matt, if we can open up this six-pack today. There we go.
All right.
We're going to hear a lot more of that now. We used to do our weekly six-pack of picks on Thursdays. It's every day six-pack now. So crack open a cold one with us, even if it's a nitro cold brew coffee.
That'll work.
There's always an occasion to crack something open here with us in our six-pack, if it's morning, noon, or night for you. Your Pittsburgh Steelers. I think we got to talk about wide receivers that could be available in this trade deadline. The Steelers have been looking for wide receivers for a long time. They added one in the offseason, but then traded one away. And I think they are still looking. And there's a number of names. We're going to reference different insiders and different rumors and players that might be available here. So it's not just going to be 6 players that we name, but we are going to try to come together on a deal for some of these trades. So let's get into it. Our six-pack of NFL trades next.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Some surprising names from Jeremy Fowler's list of top 25 candidates to be available potentially at the trade deadline. There's been other reports from various outlets about players that could be available. Jacoby Myers has been a name that's really been out there that seems like a very likely player to be traded that would cost a lot less than, say, the top receiver, who was the number 2 on the top 25 from Jeremy Fowler. Miami Dolphins wide receiver Jalen Waddle is an interesting name that I hadn't really seen thrown out there a lot. There is a number of other names. Brian Thomas Jr. has been thrown out there in recent days. Chris Olave, apparently teams are calling about. And so you knowing the Steelers better than anybody, Matt, talk to me about what they might need at wide receiver. Do you think they can get a deal done? And do you think we can come up with something that makes sense before the trade deadline for the Steelers at that position?
So I've been talking about this for way over a year, back to Ayuk in the summer of 2024, and it's been constant. And then Then they trade for Metcalf, and then they trade away Pickens. And so that just opens up the door that they closed. And since you and I talked last, it's not big news, but they signed Marquez Valdez-Scantling, which I hope doesn't move the needle or change their opinion about trading for a receiver. He's the Aaron Rodgers buddy that is big and fast and drops a lot of passes. You know him well.
Yeah. I saw him with the Niners this year, and he was just an extra dude. He was kind of like shuttling back and forth from the practice squad type of guy at this point in his career. Not quite as fast as he used to be either. And so you hope that it wasn't like, we called around, we couldn't find anybody, so we're just going to sign this dude, and that's what we got. You hope that's not the case for this.
That's kind of speculation, and I hope that's not the case. I would not, if it was me in charge, I would not be done. And
there's nothing about Marquez Valdez-Scantling's recent career that tells you, that's going to fix any problems for us.
Right. He's been a complete journeyman, especially the last year or two, just bounce around week to week, not even year to year. Now, the other developments that are sort of noteworthy, Roman Wilson has finally stepped up a little bit. The past 2 weeks, his snap counts have greatly improved. Austin came back from injury this past week, who's clearly the 2, and Wilson's now clearly the 3. So I don't think any of those combinations, though, make you stop shopping for a wide receiver, because it's still Austin should be a 3. Wilson should be a 4. You know what I mean? Somebody should compliment Metcalf, and too much is asked of him. And the Steelers defense has been so bad lately, as we talked about yesterday, that there's more and more talk of just saying, Rodgers, you're going to have to score 30 every week. So we're going to get you one more weapon, play more traditional 11 personnel like you have throughout your career, and as opposed to being so tight end centric, and let's go get you a dude. So the names you mentioned are the ones I've talked about all year. Olave and Waddle, to me, are the ones that are the highest pedigree, or the ones that would eat up the most cap space. And they do have a lot of cap space going forward, but Metcalf eats up a fair amount. Myers seems like a very logical number 2, big-bodied, gonna block for Arthur Smith type guy. Shaheed is really interesting to me as well. There's probably other names, but I would say those are the best ones. It makes sense to come in and really make an impact.
Could they go big with Brian Thomas Jr., Olave, if those guys are actually available, if those teams are listening to trades on that? Because it's something that would be not only a fix it now, it'd be a long-term move.
See, that's the thing I keep telling people is like, a lot of people are like, I don't want to use future picks. And the Steelers have a ton of future picks. They have all these comp picks and everyone's like, well, you're going to need them to trade up in round 1 for a quarterback. I'm like, maybe, but a 4th round pick isn't going to get you from 23 to 9 in the first round. And oh, by the way, any way you cut it, whether you draft a quarterback or bring back Rodgers, you still need a receiver. So would you rather use a 4th round pick in a trade right now, like we're doing, or a 4th round pick on a rookie out of Clemson that you hope hits? I was like, why not do it now?
So what's the match? Jacoby Myers, I was thinking it was a really nice match and more likely to be traded and fits with a DK Metcalf situation, but is Roman Wilson maybe a guy that can fit that role anyway? So do you want somebody on the outside that can make big plays with Aaron Rodgers?
I think Myers is my target in terms of what he would cost. I mean, I think if you went out and got Waddle or Olave, you'd basically have to give him the same contract as Metcalf, and then you have 90 or 70 million in 2 guys at the same position. Where Myers, I think you could slot in. Clearly, he's above Austin and Wilson on the depth chart, but he's a clear number 2, and he's bigger than those guys. I mean, I think because he was a Patriot. And if he was white, he would have thought everyone would have thought he's really small, but he's much bigger and more physical than people think because he's a Patriot slot receiver. Everyone's like, he's kind of he's like 6'2", 215.
Yeah. Former quarterback, right?
I think so. Yeah. So I think he's a perfect guy because I also think, and I basically know the Raiders are very eager to get Jack Besh in that role as their big power slot. But what's he cost? 4th? 5th? I don't think he's very expensive.
Maybe less.
Yeah.
It sounds like this sounds like one of those players that the Raiders are even working to move rather than, oh no, we don't really want to trade him, but we'll listen. Mm-hmm. And that tells me that you could get him for, say, a pick swap like the McCreary deal or a later round pick. So I'd say a 5th or a 6th round pick probably gets it done here.
I think so too. I mean, I think a 5th and then a pick swap that favors the Steelers. I'll give you a 5th and a 7th for a 6th in Myers
next year. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like that. Okay, there we go. We got a
boom. Check one off the 6 pack.
Jacoby Myers to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Love that trade projection at the deadline. I think it's a realistic one as well. Is it realistic to fix the Dallas Cowboys defense with a trade, Matt? And now the defense of the Dallas Cowboys has been awful this year. Maybe they could go hunting for a whale in the trade market, which is probably less likely, but it's a possibility. And potentially all 3 levels of that defense could use a player, not just a pass rusher, because there's so much, there's the rumors about them calling about Maxx Crosby. And obviously they shipped out Micah Parsons right before the season started. So, you kind of focus on the defensive line and in a star edge rusher for the Dallas Cowboys, but they could use some help on the back end as well. I would throw a name like Minkah Fitzpatrick out there potentially if one of those teams that is a seller is the Miami Dolphins, which I think they will be in some fashion.
I think Minkah could go because, like, even when the Steelers traded him,
too.
There's been a lot of that talk too. Trust me, especially because Elliott, their best safety, got hurt and is out for the year. But even when they traded Minkah, I said the day after, I'm like, I don't know that he'll end his season with the Dolphins because his contract is very tradable. I wrote down about 5 defensive names for them.
I think to hear what you say, because I went to the top and I was like, all right, big name, big splash, Dallas Cowboys, America's team. They step loudly. Crosby and Minkah were the first 2 names I put out there, but what else you got?
They were 2 of all. I added Minkah, but Crosby was on my list, and then a couple that are a little lighter. And really, if you watch this Cowboy game the past weekend, their secondary is so beat up that secondary might be the way to go. And I loved your Minkah call. Maybe that's just the answer. Reek Woolen, I thought was an interesting one. I really do think Logan Wilson will get traded from the Bengals, and he'd be an immediate plug-and-play guy for them. And Jalen Phillips has always been a favorite of mine. Phillips or Chubb, I think, could leave Miami, or both. They could end up in a multitude of places.
Yeah, we talked about this before with the Crosby rumors, too. It's like for the defensive line for the Dallas Cowboys, edge rusher, you either go big or don't worry about it because they've got a lot of bodies, and they've got guys that are kind of developing there that you think might be, Ezaraku, like some flashes I've seen from him as a rookie. And by the way, the Cowboys are going to get some guys back at corner. They have the rookie Savon Ravel, who was hurt when he was drafted. Trevon Diggs, and then DeMarvion Overshown. Kind of forgot about him, who was
I didn't know he was back this year.
Star in the making that could be coming back at some point in the second half of the year. So they might get some other additions, but they would need to glue and tape some things together before they even get to that point.
I think Minkah would really make bring the room together, though.
I like it. Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Dallas Cowboys. What would be the cost on a trade like that? Because he was just shipped off, but it was players
involved. Right?
So what would Minkah be in picks right now?
I'm thinking a 3rd. Now they did give the Steelers their 3rd for Pickens. We don't have to get exactly. They have to give this pick and this pick,
Right,
but I mean, we could kind of ballpark it a little bit.
So whatever the value of a 3rd is, do you have a pick this year, a pick next year, maybe a conditional pick or something like that, but somewhere like late day two value for potentially Minkah Fitzpatrick. I like that.
I think both teams should say yes to that. Give her a 3rd more or less. 4th this year, 4th next year. Something like that.
Could see a lot of people shipped out of Miami potentially at the trade deadline, and Phillips and Jordan Brooks and Bradley Chubb. And so
maybe Waddle.
Yeah, maybe even Jalen Waddle, which would be a big one.
I like it. Minkah's a Cowboy.
Minkah's a Cowboy. How about the Minnesota Vikings at quarterback?
Is Cousins the only name?
It's got to be Cousins, right? Because it's
Wilson, Winston,
who could play, start now. If JJ McCarthy's either still hurt or doesn't play well, you need a body. Just because Carson Wentz is going on IR, there's the familiarity there. I don't know what's going on in Atlanta. It feels like all of a sudden they don't like either one of their quarterbacks all that much. And so, but you got to go with Penix if you're Atlanta. And so you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none thing. Ship the other guy out so nobody's talking about him and you're not tempted to put him in the game. You got to go with Penix here. So I like it.
I would rather go that route than Winston or Wilson from the Giants.
Easy. Kirk Cousins there might be like Russell Wilson potentially out there.
Yeah,
but I like the Cousins fit.
I do too. Yeah, and I seem to enjoy his time there. I don't think he'd be obtrusive to McCarthy when that time comes, but he's certainly a safety blanket. Plug him in right away. I don't think he's real expensive either because he is expensive. I mean, because of the contract,
They might have to eat some. They're definitely going to have some dead money.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'd have to figure that out with salary. And I don't think there'd be a big pick coming back at all.
I think it's like a fifth.
Yeah. All right. Next, let's talk pass rushers at the trade deadline. The San Francisco 49ers have a ton of injuries. They need some help on the defensive line. Maybe the Detroit Lions do too. And the Kansas City Chiefs, could they add a running back? Next. Today's episode of NFL Six Pack is brought to you by Rugiet. And come on, let's stop with the excuses, guys, right? Let's be real. We've all heard them. It's just stress. I'm tired. Or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support. And that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it so easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor, 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. If prescribed, your treatment ships directly and discreetly to your door. So visit Rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL to get 15% off your first order. That is Rugiet, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNFL so they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. NFL action, obviously. We got trade deadline. We are mid-season now, and teams are going to start trying to make some runs in the NFL. But the NBA is back as well. Just watched the 18-inning. It was 2 games in 1, the World Series baseball. But the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on all that action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game, you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to who will score next after that to fourth quarter comebacks. So you can even combine your live bets and into a same game parlay as well for a shot at a bigger playout. Of course, weekly lines, NFL, college football, player props. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All you got to do is head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So with the teams that might be sellers, when you start looking at the Miami Dolphins that we've mentioned, the New York Jets, the New Orleans Saints who are making a change at quarterback. There are a number of teams, the Tennessee Titans, that I think, if you're trying to poach a player, you're definitely calling those teams and might expect to get something that is available. The Raiders are one of those teams probably. A lot of those teams do have a lot of defensive linemen and some pass rush.
Yeah, they do.
The San Francisco 49ers, they lost Nick Bosa for the season. But they're 5-3 right now. I think they owe it to the fan base and the guys in the locker room to kind of go for this thing and see if they can make a run to the playoffs. I don't know if it'll be a Super Bowl caliber team. Here's the thing that the 49ers need to do is they could spend a little bit in trade, but that player has to be part of the long-term plan.
Okay.
And if it's just a rental.
Not a rental, yeah.
If it's a rental, that's fine too, but we're talking, 7th round pick, 6th round pick, a 6th, 7th pick swap, something like that. So I could see going big on one side. I'm going to throw a name out there that is apparently available, and the price is a 2nd round pick for Jets defensive tackle Quinnen Williams.
Oh, I was thinking edge guys. Okay.
Because here's the theory with this, because Quinnen Williams would be not only right now help your defensive line, help your pass rush, but he could be part of the plan. They have no future dollars spent at defensive tackle, and he would
I love it.
Nicely with, Bryce Huff when he comes back. And then you've got Michael Williams, their 1st round pick at defensive end. You got Nick Bosa. They don't really have a long-term need at defensive end, but they do have a long-term need for an impact defensive tackle. That would help your pass rush now, and it would be part of a future move for a 2nd round pick. I am not against that, but you could still call the Jets and ask for Will McDonald, and maybe that would cost you a little bit less. And that's a player that helps you rush the passer this year. Then you get Bosa back, and he could be part of the rotation still because he'd be under contract still. Or you could go the Arden Key route from the Tennessee Titans. That would be a very cheap pick swap, and maybe some players out there that are not part of a team's plan that will not be signed by them in free agency. That would be very cheap. That just is a rental for this year. So I can see a number of those, but I almost want to say that the best fit is Quinnen Williams. Surprisingly,
I love it. I was thinking one of the Miami edge guys or one of the Jets edge guys, and didn't really think the D tackle route. I was going to throw Jeffrey Simmons' name out there just in maybe he could go to any team, not necessarily even San Francisco, but I do think Tennessee, I kind of believe Tennessee when they say the guys we don't want to trade are Ward and Simmons, and I would totally understand that.
Yeah.
Quinnen for a 2.
I like it.
Boom. Yeah.
And like you could do Quinnen Williams and still throw a 7th round pick or a 6th, 7th pick swap for Arden Key or something like that to help you out in the short term at defensive end as well. So they could kind of do both of those if they think that someone like Quinnen Williams is that missing piece. Obviously, the Robert Saleh connection as well. He coached those players in New York,
that too.
Which is why I like that Jets 49ers pairing as far as defensive linemen at the trade deadline. And it could be a bigger deal, it could be a less big deal, but Quinnen for a 2 starts to make a little bit of sense for me for the 49ers. So why not? Let's go big there. 2nd round pick to the New York Jets for Quinnen Williams.
That's good. I like that quite a bit.
So
put him and Bosa there for the next couple of years.
Yeah. How about that? The Detroit Lions could use an edge rusher. Let's find them a defensive end since we didn't give one to the 49ers.
I think they go big. I think this is Hendrickson or Crosby.
Got to do the sounder. I forgot to crack one open there for the San Francisco 49ers. Let's do one more for the Detroit Lions as well. There we go. All right.
I think this is an aggressive organization that's not super young. Push your chips in. They're playing great. They just saw Parsons go to a division rival. We got to keep up the arms race. Keep them, pair them with Hutchinson, and let's try to win this thing. What do you think about Hendrickson or Crosby?
Jeez, man, going big. That would be a earth-shattering NFC move right there to keep up with the Cowboys.
I think that's how you got to keep up with the NFC right
with the Packers. Who go and get a big defensive end and an aggressive move for an aggressive organization.
Jalen Phillips would make sense too, but I think you go big here for this.
Hendrickson would be the one there.
Would be the one.
And with the loss this week, feels like the Bengals got to be kind of over it now. Hendrickson, you got to get something before you get nothing for Hendrickson. Is it a 2nd or a 3rd for Henderson? I think it's more like a 3rd at this point.
I was thinking a 2, just because it's going to be such a late pick.
A 2, and then maybe get a 4th back or something.
That's Hendrickson in a 4 or 5 for year 2.
Hendrickson in a 5th for a 2.
Yeah,
I'm going to be a late 2. I'll buy that.
That's the thing is, I'm the Bengals. I'm like, man, that might be the 64th pick. But
and the thing with Hendrickson is it might have to be a 2 because if it's a 3, they'll say, well, when he goes in free agency, we'll get a comp pick that might end up being a 3rd anyway. So you got to come up higher than a. That's kind of what I was thinking 3rd. Too.
Yeah, and you'd rather the 3rd this year than next year, but still, give me a 2 and I'll give you still something back.
Detroit Lions for a day 2 pick. Let's go.
Lock it up. Yeah, I like that.
Final one here, and is the Kansas City Chiefs. We started with the Chiefs. We'll end with the Chiefs here. And let's get him a running back. I love what's going on with the defense. It's too hard. I wanted to put an offensive lineman in there for some. Those are too hard to find. They've done actually a lot of work and put a lot of resources in the offensive line, and they fixed a lot of things, and they've got extra guys, and so hopefully Simmons is part of that for the Chiefs. Could they use a little bit more dynamism on the offensive side of the ball? They got a wide receiver. What about a running back?
I think that's a great move. They seem to like Pacheco and Hunt more than I do, to be honest with you. And I keep looking at, we opened the show talking about all their pass catchers. Why not get somewhat of a difference maker in the backfield? And the 2 names that come to mind are Breece Hall, which he's still really good. And I don't know why the Jets would hesitate to trade him. And he said wants to close out his career in New Orleans. But doesn't Kansas City sound a lot more fun for Alvin Kamara?
It does. I like the Kamara thing, but the Saints are such a weird organization, man. I don't know why they even re-signed him in the first place. Like that was the perfect times, like older running back. let's move on and do some different things there. And but he should be available. Is he available? I don't know. Love the fit there, because whether it's Kamara or Breece Hall, stop with this like pedestrian running back thing. You got a guy that can not only run the football but catch the football. So replace all of this rotation with an actual dude.
Do you have a preference? I think Hall's more expensive. I think Kamara you get cheap.
Kamara's should be available, should be the right fit. Would they be willing to do something aggressive like Breece Hall that should cost a little bit more than Kamara?
I would if I were them.
Yeah. I like Hall. Let's go Hall.
See a fourth?
Yeah, you might even be able to get a third.
Yeah, I mean, he's a free agent after the year. The Jets have no interest, it sounds like, in re-signing him.
Yeah, he is a free. That's one of the big things, too, when you start looking at these players. If you look at a player that's rumored to be available, it's like, well, he's got 2 years left on his deal. Nah, maybe. But those players that are going to be free agents, they're going to be re-signed. That's
I mean, super non-contending teams, free agents to be, I think you can get pretty cheap.
Yes. And the difference between someone like Breece Hall and like Trey Hendrickson. Hendrickson's a defensive end. That's bigger money. You're much more likely to be a part of the comp pick formula for running backs. They don't make as much, so that's why it might only be a fourth, and it might seem low for a guy who is kind of a star, a rising star at the running back position. But he's not quite that level anymore, and he's had some injuries, and might be leaving town anyway. Get something back for him. Fourth.
Yeah, if you're Kansas City and he's awesome, you could franchise him or try. If you can't get an extension worked out, I mean, he's to that level. It wouldn't be crazy to get one more year out of him as a franchise deal. And if the Jets aren't going to get anything for him, why not take the fourth now?
Yeah,
they seem to like Braylon Allen. I know he's hurt, but I mean, the running back should be the last thing on their list.
And that's a lot for the Jets here. We've got we've got them a couple of draft picks. They lost some guys that were supposed to be part of a star core for them that made them the worst team in the league. The players didn't make them the worst team in the league, but they still ended up being the worst team in the league. But now they got a second and a fourth round pick. Maybe, who knows, maybe some seasoning in there with some other stuff and a player to get the Jets rebuilt. And clearly they're going to be going quarterback shop hunting. You need some extra picks for that. So I like it. Breece Hall to the Kansas City Chiefs. There you go. There is our 6-pack of trades we're projecting for this year's trade deadline. We are 1 week away. Let us know, what move do you think your team should make? At BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL in the YouTube comments. Please, we implore you. A lot of longtime listeners still are not subscribed. So
what are you doing?
Click subscribe to the new format here. NFL 6-pack coming at you daily with Peacock and Williamson, and we're going to have a lot of fun here. So get those mailbag questions in, subscribe on YouTube and everywhere you listen to your podcasts, and Matt and I back for tomorrow's 6-pack.